So, you bought White Knuckle because you saw your favorite internet person play it, or maybe a friend told you, or perhaps you even found it yourself. You launch the game and oh my god, why is this game so hard? You don't even have time to learn how to climb before you get consumed by tortured souls, on top of getting harassed by all kinds of enemies and even the level geometry itself. Well, that's just not fair, you think to yourself, and then you look at other people and they are flying through this game no problem. How is that even possible? Well, today I will teach you how, step by step. With this video, I will guide you through the entire game, through every single room, and show you exactly how to beat them properly. I will also explain item and perk usage when necessary, although I already covered most of that in my previous videos. If you are interested in perks and items specifically, I recommend checking out my tier lists. Otherwise, welcome to Silos, the first region of the game, although before I explain the rooms, I need to explain the movement mechanics. When you first launch the game, you will be climbing like this. This is cool, this is fine, very immersive, I like it. And this is actually totally fine as you can beat the game climbing like this. However, you are here to climb fast, right? To brag to your friends about how good you are at this game. The key to climbing quickly in this game is jumping. As you can see, you can jump not only from the ground, but also when you're holding onto something. I am not standing on the ground right now, yet I can still jump. And this is what you need to incorporate into your climbing. To practice it, do it slowly. Just slowly jump from handhold to handhold. Do not hurry, do not spam jumps. Your end goal is to learn to be able to do it in one continuous motion, so you preserve your momentum from previous jumps. This is hard, you will likely not be able to get the hang of it straight away or even after hours of playing. Still, you will eventually get it, and this is absolutely worth learning as this will speed you up massively. Here's another important technique. Oftentimes you will find yourself in situations where you can just almost reach something above you, but not quite. In situations like these, you need to look for something to grab near the edge where you're standing. If you grab it and then pull yourself up with the movement keys, it will allow you to make a higher jump than you would otherwise make by simply jumping from the ground. Now, while this is a great technique, it can be slow in a lot of situations. What you can do instead is do a technique called bapping. Bapping accomplishes the same thing faster. What you need to do is jump, grab the edge, and jump again in a very quick succession. This can be hard to do, and I myself struggle with it sometimes, but this is definitely worth learning. The last thing I want to show you is how to go over obstacles quickly while moving horizontally. Instead of jumping, grabbing the edge and pulling yourself over the obstacle, what you can do instead is catch the edge and then jump immediately to fly over the obstacle without having to climb over it. The final technique I'm going to demonstrate with this rebar is double dinos. Now, as you can see, if I jump from this rebar just a single time, it only gets me up so far. However, by doing a double dino, I am almost reaching the level of this light fixture. This technique is very important for reaching high places, and while it is hard, it is also definitely worth learning. Now onto the rooms. Now before you do anything, go into settings and disable these effects for maximum visibility, unless you prefer the retro look. Then go into controls and enable always sprint. I think this is a massive quality of life improvement that should be enabled. And finally, in accessibility, make sure to enable high visibility items and handholds. This will help you immensely. The final thing I'm going to mention is that I'm using a mod that spawns all the possible items and displays their spawn chance, so I can explain them to you easier. So then, Deep Storage 1, a very simple and kind of unremarkable room, however it does give you food at the start, which is always welcome. The easy way to identify this room specifically is this formation: a small crate with food, next to a big crate with a smaller one on top, and this slightly elevated platform. Completing this room is as simple as following the orange handholds in the walls. However, once you get to the first platform, do not follow the spiral to the other side, instead look up and follow the path of handholds that goes up. This way is quicker and they both end in an overhang. Be very careful with overhangs and do not jump on them, as you will bonk your head and send yourself flying down. Once you are at the rotating pillar, just jump up, grab the platform, and grab the metal railing. That's the end of the room. A slightly faster but also mechanically more demanding path is to jump on this slightly elevated platform and do a bapping maneuver to reach this light. Doing this will allow you to skip most of the handholds, although you will still have to deal with the overhang, but otherwise it is very similar to the other route. Next, Deep Storage 2, a very recognizable room due to its red, sinister lighting. Now when you get to this room, keep in mind that climbing inside this cylinder is not worth it, as this route skips a lot of important items we need to grab. Instead, you want to climb one of these platforms on the edges, and one is much better than the other. The one you want is the one that has handholds in it, pitons. The other platform has nothing in it, so locate the pitons and climb this way. Once you get to the top of this first platform, you will reach the crate. This is your first important place in this room. As deep storage is quite stamina intensive, this food will come in handy. And from here, you can look outward and see the platform with a possible grub spawn. The chance for it is quite low, so it usually won't be here, but it is worth checking as it's quite easy to see from here. Either way, once you're here, simply make a simple jump up and get to the next platform above you. Again, you want to be on this particular side with the crate, not that side. Here you will see a very obvious path up, but once you get to the third handhold, turn around and jump to the platform that was right above you. On this platform, there is a floppy disk and a guaranteed pill bottle. This is very important. Once you grab it, simply walk back, jump onto the vent, and you have completed the room. Now Deep Storage 3, perhaps my least favorite room in this entire region, and you will very quickly see why this is an F tier room. Can be identified very easily by this huge fat monolith that has a very obvious path of handholds up. To complete the room, you take this very obvious path, jump onto this protruding block, and from it onto the pipe in the middle of the room. From the pipe, you want to follow the obvious way of handholds even higher up, be very careful on overhangs, and do not jump, just calmly follow it up. Once you reach this place with 2 food spawns, which are guaranteed, you will see the reason why I hate this room. This guy right here, he is guaranteed to spawn, and he will troll the hell out of you on every single one of your runs. The simple existence of this guy puts this room at the very bottom of the deep storage tier. Now instead of following the obvious way and jumping across the monkey bars, you instead want to pull yourself up onto the thing that supports the monkey bar, and then onto the pipe right above you. In this pipe, there is a pill spawn. Now from this pipe, there is a simple way up onto a little ledge, and from this ledge you have 2 ways to go. This pipe on the left, which is technically accessible via this handhold, is only doable if you have a boost from a granola or an injector. If you don't have any boosts at all, do not attempt to jump on this pipe. If you don't have any boosts, it makes more sense to go the more obvious way. Again, be careful with the overhangs, do not jump on them, just calmly make your way up, and you are at the end of the room. Next, Deep Storage 4, a very unremarkable room that can however be quite good if you get lucky. Can be identified quite easily by going out of the previous room and seeing that you have nowhere to go except this small tiny vent. By climbing on top of the vent, you can make your jump onto the platform. From this platform, you can immediately spot the first point of interest. This pipe has a grub spawn. It is very unlikely to spawn here, however, if it does, it is easy to see it. Regardless, from this platform, you simply want to grab the vent, grab the rebar, and then jump all the way to the upper platform. This vending machine is very nice when it does spawn, but the chance is far too low to really rely on it. Whether it does spawn or not, your next step is to get on top of this small vent, grab the handhold, grab the rebar, grab the metal railing, and get to the end of the room. Now before you leave the room, there is a pill spawn in this kind of a hidden spot. The problem with this spawn is the fact that the chance is not that great, and if you don't have this mod, seeing whether the pills are there or not can be quite hard from this angle, as the pills and the platform itself are very similar in color. Next, Deep Storage 5, a very funny room. You see, whether it's good or bad is dictated purely by this piton. If it does spawn, then it makes going up very easy. However, if it doesn't spawn, you have to use this railing to grab it, pull yourself up, and then catch the rail. Once you're on top of it, you can simply follow the vent, jump from the vent to the catwalk, from the catwalk to the rebar, and on the second vent, which has 2 bean spawns. These are important as you will often be out of stamina at this point. Once you grab those, simply follow the vent up, grab this little opening in the wall, and then jump up once again onto the rail. From here you can either leave the room, or if you didn't get the food spawns below you, you can check this little spot for an extra chance to get food. Next, Deep Storage 6, a room that can be kinda confusing at first. Now this room offers you 4 ways to go, and the important thing to remember here is that this room is split in 2 up above. The way it splits is dictated not by this wall, but by this slightly elevated wall. It splits this room in two. Now the side you want to go towards is the one that has this red sinister looking path. This is the way I go as well, as it is easy to remember. However, this is a very incorrect way to go, as you can easily get grabbed by barnacles like I do right here. What you should do instead is locate the red path and follow the rail onto the opposite side of it. Going this way is not only easier, but also make sure that you exit right at the crate with food. This is why it is important to be on this side, as only this side has the crate with food. The opposite side has nothing. Once you grab your food, simply make your way up to the end of the room. There is nothing really complicated about any of these paths, it's just hard to remember which way you need to go in the first place. Next, Deep Storage 7, a very cool and fun room, which can also be really good if you get lucky. Can be identified quite easily, as this is the only room that begins with a single huge ladder. There are actually two ways you can go here. You can either follow the ladder to reach the first circle and then go around it to reach the second ladder, or you can begin by climbing the lamps, which gets you up at the second ladder straight away. Once you are at the first circle, you can once again choose to either follow the ladder or grab one of the barnacles to use them as transport. This actually saves you some stamina, so it can be much preferable. Once you are at the second circle, you can either follow it all the way around, or you can use barnacles to jump over to the other side. When you are by the ladder on the second circle, always make sure to check this corner. Sometimes this wall will spawn broken. If it does spawn broken, you can enter this little room and guarantee a pill spawn, a grub spawn with an 85% chance, and a injector spawn with a 75% chance. All three of these are super valuable, and if you get the secret, this essentially sets your run up for success. So after checking the secret, the only way up from here is to follow the long ladder onto the third circle. As you've likely seen in my other videos, the only way up from here is to grab a tongue, smack it, and ride it all the way up to the end of the room. Overall, I enjoy this room a lot, and when you do get lucky and a secret spawns, this is perhaps one of the best rooms in this entire area. Next, Deep Storage 8, a room that begins very similar to one of the previous rooms, also has a small crate with food, a slightly elevated platform, but no big crate in the middle. There are two ways up in this room. The first way is to follow the ladder, which gets you to the piton and a missing handhold in the wall. You can do this by simply jumping off of an unhammered piton, which can be quite tricky, but is not too complicated. The other way up is to go on this little vent in the wall. One of the ways to do it is to jump on the crate and grab it, very simple. The other way is to grab the lamp here, and from the lamp jump onto the vent. Now I prefer to jump on this vent, as this is the side you want to be in this room. So from the vent, you can make the jump onto the spinning ladder, and then go back the way you came to this path in the wall. From it, just follow the handholds and jump onto the rotating platforms. Easy enough. Then you can catch the ladder and get to the end of the room. Now, if you want to be tricky and skip this final ladder, you can actually vap yourself up and catch the edge of the final platform. There's a vendor spawn at the end here, although the chance is way too low to rely on it. Now, Deep Storage 9, yet another room that begins in a very similar manner. This one can be identified by the fact that there is only the crate with food here and nothing else. In this room, it doesn't matter if you start by going left or right, as both of these paths are identical. Instead of following this very obvious path immediately, wait for a second upon getting onto this platform and check for rebar spawns. If a rebar does spawn, you can use it immediately to boost yourself onto the other side, eliminating the need to follow this way. Once you're here, simply follow the handholds in the wall, and then wait a second at this point. Instead of simply following this way once again, you can instead grab the beginning of this rail, pull yourself up, and grab this vent that's in the wall. From this vent, it's quite easy to jump straight to the end of the room. Now, in this particular room, there is a guaranteed rope rebar spawn at the end, which can be quite useful. Next, Deep Storage 10, yet another room that heavily relies on RNG. Now, this room offers you two ways to go, either left or right. If you go left, this ladder will not always be here, but this little thing will always be on the side, which you can use to climb to the top of it. Now, you can't follow the ladder as it is broken, but you can catch this little broken opening in the wall from it to the rebar, and from the rebar, follow the ladder once again. Now, if you're confident in your abilities, you don't have to go this way. You can jump on top of this ladder and then bap yourself up. From here, simply follow the ladder and you get to the middle point of the room. When you're here, you might notice that there is a grub spawn below. You can only get to this spawn once you climb slightly higher in the room and drop down to here. Now, the chance for this grub is quite low, and I in general tend to skip all the grubs with low spawn chances, so this is the one that I tend to skip. The other way you can go is just as viable. You can use these protruding parts of the vent to grab onto them and make your way up to the middle part of the room just as easily. When you get up here, always check this vendor spawn, as it has a 30% chance to spawn, which is a lot higher than other spawns in deep storage. Also, always check the top of this lamppost. It has an injector spawn. So get to the middle, climb the lamp, always check for this spawn, and then simply go up from here to the next room. Next, Deep Storage 11, one of the granola rooms, can be very easily identified by seeing this overhang straight away, which also has a broken ladder going down from it. When you get here, simply follow this obvious path up, and then when you get almost to the top, instead jump to this pipe, which has 2 granola bar spawns. Once you grab the granolas, you can jump even higher from here, and then you might consider going back to the main path, but I would reconsider. Right above the granola pipe, there is a very nice set of handholds that go all the way to the end of the room, but you need to reach them first. Now, to reach this, you need to bap yourself up. However, this is harder than usual as it is quite high. I kind of struggle with it. So what you can do instead is simply rebar boost yourself up. If you make this jump, simply follow the handholds in the walls and they will get you to all the way to the end of the room. If you have a granola here, this is extra helpful as it will make sure you don't run out of stamina while climbing here. Now, before you leave this room, you might consider checking this pipe, the final pipe almost at the end of the room, for a grub spawn. However, the chance is so low that I usually tend to just skip it. Next, Deep Storage 12, one of the 2 container rooms. In both of these storage rooms, what you're looking for is this opening in the first row of the container storage. Now, in this variation of this room, to get into this opening, you need to jump onto the box, onto the piton, and from the piton into this opening. The chances for the granola here are not great, but they are worth checking. Once you eat the granola or get disappointed that it didn't spawn, to make your way up, simply jump onto the light, and then from the light, make your way straight up to the end of the room. 2 things at the end here, a guaranteed rope rebar, which can be very nice, and a 10% chance to spawn a grub, which is way too low to even check. Deep Storage 13, another variation of the container room, although the opening in this one is very easily reachable. The granola here has a much better chance of spawning, and from it, instead of jumping to the lamp like in the last room, it's better to follow this path of handholds onto the container in the middle of the room. Once you jump from here to this container in the middle, you can either follow forward if you need stamina for a free food, or go back and check for a grub spawn in this little corner. This chance is actually decent enough to actually go and see if it's here, and once you do that, it's as easy as jumping to the sticking rebar, from it to the catwalk, from the catwalk to the rebar in the ceiling, and onto the next room. Next, Deep Storage 14, a very unique and cool room. While it offers you 2 ways of going up, it doesn't really matter which one you pick, as either will get you up no problem. Now, once you get to this first platform, instead of looking up immediately and thinking about where to go, look horizontally and see this little platform with 2 granola spawns. Now, if you chose to go up from this way, you can simply jump on this triangular piece and make a jump to the granola island, no problem. If you came up from the other side, what I like to do is to jump, grab the rebar, and send yourself flying straight towards the island. Once you get the granolas, simply go straight up, catch the baton, and get onto the next platform. This platform has a guaranteed food spawn and quite a complicated way ahead. Now don't worry, all you need to do is find this little damaged section of the wall, grab it, grab the rebar, and then go straight up towards this ladder. This ladder is important. Now if you made the mistake of not going towards the damaged section and instead jump up from this section, you can still see the ladder and make your way towards it without any issues. Going to the ladder is important because this brings you to the best place to start your ascent to the end of the room. From here you can simply jump up and grab all the things in your reach and keep going up without having to go anywhere else. Next, Deep Storage 15. I despise this room about just as much as I despise that room with the blood bug. The reason for it is this room is essentially just a waste of stamina. You get no good items here at all. Yes, not even a food can. Now the way up here is to locate the big vent and use the sticking out parts to climb to the middle of it. Once at the middle, you can go 2 ways. You can either keep following the vent by grabbing the protruding parts, and this will get you almost to the end of the room. The other way, which I prefer to take, is to use the handholds in the wall to jump onto the other smaller vent, and then back onto handholds, which brings you to the end of the room. And now Deep Storage 16, the best room in Deep Storage area. Can be very easily identified by this big tubular thing in the center, a way up with a container, and a way up without a container. Now the way you want to go is follow the side path without the container and do a very specific sequence here. Jump to the top of this shutter door, to the catwalk, to the handhold, to the handhold, to the top of the vent, to the catwalk, grab the edge of the door frame, and launch yourself to the top of this little thing. On top of this scaffolding, there is a guaranteed pill and a guaranteed injector. The fact that they are guaranteed makes this room the best room in Deep Storage. In fact, if you watch any of the speedruns, this is probably the first room you will see in most of them. Either way, you grab your spoils of war and make your way down onto this little vent from which you can jump straight to the end of the room. And finally, Deep Storage 17, a very similar looking room, although this time it has 4 optional sideways instead of just 2. Now, the way you want to go here has a ladder, but not only a ladder, but also a vent that goes up. Once you locate this path, going up is quite easy, as you just need to climb the vent and then stop for a second at the top of this vent. Now, instead of just going onto these spinning platforms and finishing the room, turn around and jump onto the scaffolding. There will always be an injector here, which is again insanely valuable. If you inject right here, then you can jump straight to the rotating platforms. If you don't, jump down to the vent and from it to the platforms, from which you can quite easily make your way to the end of the room. Deep Storage will always end in this break room. There's really not much to say about it, except for a few things. First, there will always be this food spawn on the table. This is useful if you get a perk that depends on food, like Conditioned Polyphagia. Second is, if you can somehow acquire an explosive rebar, either from a perk or from a vendor, you can actually throw it right in the middle at this experimental perk machine to blow up both of these vendors at the same time. After that break room, you get one of the 2 possible regions, either Air Exchange or Shattered Chambers. I will cover Shattered Chambers first, as it is the better of the 2. Chambers 1 is a small room that can be quite tricky until you figure it out. Now, it will immediately bait you with this arrow and will make you think that you should go here right away. That is not the case, however, as when you get into this room, your first decision should be climb these panels that are sticking out of the wall to reach this platform at the back of the room. There is a very decent chance for a pill bottle and a grub here. This is definitely worth checking. From here, make your way onto this pipe, onto the next pipe, and be careful to grab it to not fall down, and then simply drop onto the vent. From this vent, you can continue forward and make your way up to this little section. This section will teach you a couple of things. First, it will teach you to not only pay attention to handholds, but also to experiment with grabbing things that aren't handholds. The other thing you can learn here is that you can actually jump off of sloped surfaces. Using this jump, you can actually reach the top of this wall quite easily. Now, before you finish this room, if you are a casual player, it's worth bringing a box over to check out this secret right above you. Jump on the box, jump up, grab the baton, and get into the secret. 2 rope rebars and a save can be very useful in any casual playthrough. Either way, from here it's as simple as following these little platforms until the very end of the room. Now, before you finish this room, there is actually a guaranteed pill spawn in this little vent hidden at the end of the room. However, getting to it is so awkward that I just do not recommend you even try. Next, Chamber 2. This is one of the big circular rooms. You will often mistake them for one another, but this one can be identified by looking up and seeing that this room is actually at a slight angle. And in fact, when you notice this angle, you want to follow it and go this way. Now, technically, you can visit this opening in the wall, which actually has quite a few items. A pill spawn and a rope rebar. However, because the pill bottle is not guaranteed and it can be quite awkward to get out of here, I prefer to not even check that opening. Instead, simply align yourself with that angle and follow the handholds up. Now, once you get on top of the black panel, look up and you will see a rebar very close to you. From this rebar to another close rebar, make a jump to the black pipe, which has countless rebars in it. From this pipe, it is very easy to make your way all the way to the end of the room. Now, technically, there is an injector spawn at the end of the room here. However, 10% is not something I would usually check. Injectors are important, but 10% is just simply too low. Chamber number 3, yet another circular room, although this one can be distinguished by looking up and seeing that it actually goes straight up without an angle. If you look up, this one also has an opening in the wall, and this one is actually worth visiting, and it also has a straight way directly to it. Just follow the path of handholds to that slightly secret-ish area, and you will see an injector with a very nice spawn chance right here. Now this place is not only good because it spawns an injector, but also because it's very easy to leave this place and keep climbing. Once you are at this panel, it essentially doesn't matter where you go, as you will end up at the end of the room anyway. However, if you go this way, you will find a grub spawn with a 28% chance to spawn. Not great, not terrible, maybe worth checking. And the end of the room is as easy as grabbing the X-shaped rail in the center and pulling yourself up into the next room. Next, Chamber 4, the best room in Shattered Chambers. Very easily identifiable by this completely blocked off entrance, and the only way forward is these 2 elevated platforms and a path of handholds above you. To progress, simply climb on top of the first platform and follow the path of handholds, although only until you get to this panel. Before continuing forward, check the corner of this wall. This is an amazing secret, and even though none of these spawns are guaranteed, you will usually walk away with at least 2. Once you're done, exit by grabbing the edge and launching yourself to these 2 panels. From these 2 panels, you can make a jump straight towards this little edge, from which you can pull yourself up and end up right next to a vending machine spawn. However, once again, before you proceed forward, turn around once again and check this secret. If you start here, it's best to climb onto the black pipe and then drop onto the secret from a panel above. Pills are all but guaranteed and a very nice chance for an injector. Now, if you mess up the drop and fall all the way down, you can actually, instead of climbing all the way up back to the panels and making the jump, you can use these handholds in the walls, which will bring you up straight to the secret. Now, if you inject yourself right there, then you can actually make the jump from here to the end of the room. If you don't, you need to go to this elevated area, and from it, make your jump to handholds, which will bring you up to this upper vent section. This is the end of the room, although, before you leave, there is actually a granola spawn in the corner here. Now this spawn is very easily forgotten and can be kinda awkward to get to. Still, a 65% chance is very nice, and if you don't forget about it, it's definitely worth checking out. Next, Chamber 5, one of the Crusher rooms. The beginning of this room has a grub spawn up there, but the chance is low and getting to it is awkward, so I choose to ignore it. Now, you will often mistake the beginning of this room with the beginning of yet another Crusher room. The easy way to differentiate them is, in this room, the Crushers are right in front of you, while in the other room, they will be right above you once you enter the red area. So, if the Crushers are in front of you, that means you need to go up. You can grab these little things in the wall, from it to the lamp, from the lamp to the platform above you. Now, from this platform, instead of going straight up by following the handholds, you want to check this vent in the corner of the room. This is not the greatest chance for an injector, but it's still good enough to check it, as the injector, as I said, is the best item in the game. Once you've done that, simply go back to the route you came from and keep moving up. Once you're on this platform, you want to make your way up to that catwalk, which you can do by either following these handholds, which is easy, or by once again using these grabbable things in the walls. From them, you can get straight to the catwalk. When you're at the catwalk, you need to make a choice. You either go on the safe side, which is slower but safer, or you go on the Crusher side, which is faster but runs a risk of you getting squashed. Now, I tend to pick the safer way. It does have this annoying jump at the start where you have to pull yourself up all the way to catch this, but from here it's an easy way up. At this little ledge, you can eat the beans to replenish your stamina and go across to the end of the room. The Crusher side is even simpler. All you need to do is follow the handholds in the wall. The only challenge here, if you can call it that, is not getting crushed by the crushers, though they are quite slow and usually don't pose any threat. Now there is something to keep in mind at the end of the room here. Now normally you cannot make this jump while unboosted. You will fall down and have to make your way up the ladder and then to the end of the room. However, even if you are unboosted, grabbing this little ledge at the exit will allow you to throw yourself straight to the end of the room. Next, Chamber 6, a room that begins almost exactly the same as the previous one, including this little tunnel that gets you into the red area. Now this room will try to bait you into this vent. Do not trust it. This vent is bad. What you want to do instead is, as I've said, grab these things in the walls, to the lamp, wait for the crusher to operate so it doesn't kill you, and then grab the handholds and make your way to this little middle area. Now, instead of going up and following through the crushers, you actually want to make your way across to the other side of the room. Now, once here, if you are unboosted, the easiest way to reach the weird things in the walls is to find this vent right here. From this vent, you can reach the weird thing, and from the weird thing, straight into the pipe, which almost guarantees a grub spawn. Once you collect the grub, simply go up and forward. This section is essentially a repeat of what you just did. Climb the vent, climb the pipe, catch the little vent, and go up. From here, you can grab these weird pipes and get almost to the end of the room, which is designated by this broken ladder. However, before you go there, I want you to turn around and check this injector spawn, which is very common and very useful. Now technically the game wants you to turn around here and climb all that way across the ceiling to get to the end of the room. However, there's no need to, as if you simply climb this vent and then get on top of this light, you can make the jump to the ladder without even boosting yourself. The exit of this room is exactly the same as the last room. Instead of simply trying to jump there, if you are unboosted, grab the ledge and launch yourself to the end of the room. Now Chamber 7. Quite likely the worst room in the entirety of Shattered Chambers, for a very good reason. You can identify it by seeing this very cramped opening with a huge ladder that you need to climb. Now this room wants you to go here, where there is a possible vendor spawn, and do a jumping puzzle over the goop. Now, going this way and completing the room by following this quote-unquote intended route takes so long that it's just not viable. So forget about going this way. You have two alternative options. How I prefer to start this room is, instead of climbing the ladder, simply follow the panels sticking out of the wall and climb on top of the catwalk. This will allow you to quickly check for the vendor, as it has quite a high chance to spawn. From here you can turn around, jump onto the lamp, onto the platform, and just barely make the jump to this little section. The thing to remember here, you can only make the jump from that panel to that opening is if you carry enough momentum with you. You can't stop, you have to carry momentum. A more reliable way of getting up there, instead of doing this jump, which can be quite tricky, is to have a rebar in your inventory, stand under the SB17 written on the wall, and boost yourself up with the rebar. Regardless which way you get up here, whether on this side or on the other, you now need to make your way onto this vent in the middle, as it has a guaranteed rebar spawn. You need this rebar, as this is your only way of getting up there, which is your way forward. You can either throw the rebar into this marked area and then reach this area by jumping off of this panel, or you can just boost yourself with the rebar to get there instantly. Now technically, while you are still down here in the lower part of this section, you can enter this vent to visit a secret. Now, while this secret has a decent amount of good items, like this food bar and pills, which are guaranteed, and also a scanner, getting into this secret and then getting out of it is such a loss of time that I just cannot recommend doing this unless you are simply doing a casual playthrough and looking for any item you can get your hands on. I think this is an easy F tier, although if you are a casual player, this room is a lot more bearable. Next, Chamber 8. An interesting and slightly confusing room when you play it at first. The main gimmick of this room is this large pillar that you need to climb to get to the end of it. Now, once you climb this initial ladder, check this vendor spawn, as it will almost always be here. Afterwards, follow the wall next to the vendor. You can actually climb it very easily, and this incline will get you straight to the injector spawn. Now, if you do get the injector and use it straight away, you can actually jump straight to that light, onto the handholds, and complete this room very quickly. Now, if the injector is not here or you choose not to use it, you need to jump across to this little vent, turn around, grab the other vent, and you will see a singular handhold with an arrow. Grab this handhold and follow it to expose a long way of handholds which you can follow, which then leads you to a monkey bar on both sides of these handholds, so it doesn't really matter which way to go, both will get you to the monkey bar, from which you can jump to the final platform. From this platform, I recommend going towards the ladder side, as it is very easy to reach the ladder, and from the ladder you will essentially get straight to the end of this room. Next, Chamber 9, a very interesting room in that it is extremely short. Now, if you choose to go forward here, it takes you to a section with crushers. Ignore it. If you look at the wall behind you, there is a delta mark on the wall, which means there is something there. This spot is worth checking for two reasons. First, sometimes you will get a pill here. Now, even though the chance for this pill is very low, even if you don't get it, you can grab this guaranteed rope rebar. Using it, you can simply boost yourself in reverse to catch that catwalk. Once you are in this section, the path up is extremely simple. Just follow the handholds, then turn around once, jump on the vent, jump onto the handholds once again, and you are at the end of the room. Next, Chamber 10, a very tall, square-shaped room. Once you get to its start, check out these two cans, which can be quite important if you have perks that require food. Then your attention might be drawn straight towards the ladder, as they are very easy to climb. Do not trust this ladder. Instead, find an arrow on the wall. Trust this arrow. This is the way you want to go. Simply follow the handholds in the wall, which will bring you to a ladder slightly above you, which will then bring you to this little opening in the middle of the room. From this opening, you can very easily jump to these two rebars sticking out of the angled panel. However, instead of jumping to that rebar and then straight towards the end of the room, I would perhaps consider slowing down, jumping on top of this panel, and then checking this granola bar spawn right above it. This granola is almost always here, and this spot is definitely worth checking out. Once you're done with it, you can very easily simply go up, catch the X-shape rail in the center, and go to the next room. Chamber 11, the newest addition to Shattered Chambers, and this room can be slightly annoying until you learn it. Now, even when you do learn it, all you get from this room is these two food cans. Now, in this room, you can actually trust the ladder. Climb the ladder and then stay right next to it. From this place next to the ladder, you can jump straight towards that vent and catch the edge of it and pull yourself up. From here, climb on top of the vent ending and then catch the other vent next to it. Once again, climb the vent ending and then follow the handholds, which will bring you to the catwalk. Now, you might think that you need to go across from the catwalk to finish this room, but actually, from the catwalk itself, you can climb these panels that are slightly sticking out of the wall to get to the end of the room very easily. Now say hello to Air Exchange and welcome to Hell. This region is universally hated, and I will do my best to explain all these rooms to you. And we begin with perhaps one of the worst rooms in this entire region, the Triple Fan Room. Now, this room is technically split into two parts. You can either climb this main part with the fans, or you can go to the other side and climb the other side of this room. This other side is absolutely not worth it, as it takes a lot longer to finish, so we climb from the start. The beginning is simple enough. Simply climb onto the lamp, which will allow you to get onto the first fan. From the first fan, it is also quite a simple jump onto the second fan from the platforms. But once you are on the second fan, yeah, this is not what you like to see. Bloodbugs will make your life living hell in this room, and there's nothing you can really do about it. So, when you are on the second fan, your objective is to reach this little elevated platform. This is your only way up to the third fan. Technically, a simple jump will suffice, however, you need to time it perfectly, and it can be quite hard. If you want to make it easier for yourself, you can grab the edge of the fan and pull yourself up before you jump, which will make it slightly easier. From here, you can either use the rebar provided to boost yourself upwards, or grab the white supporting pillar and get on top of the third fan. From it, it is quite easy to reach the end of this room and grab the food at the end. All in all, if you actually play this game, you will probably remember this room for a long time. Air Exchange 2 is a very similar room with 3 fans, although this one is much easier just because a bloodbug doesn't spawn here. There are no real tricks to this room. All you need to do is follow the intended path and get on top of the fans to progress. Now there is this small little vent at the start which has a guaranteed rebar spawn, which can be quite helpful as well as the food. Either way, completing it is as simple as just following the handholds and jumping on top of the fence. There's really nothing I can tell you about it, except, well, don't fall. It ends in the same way as the previous room, with yet another can of food. Now Air Exchange 3. The start of this room looks very similar to the previous room, although it introduces a new mechanic. You've seen the moving fans, but now say hello to moving platforms, which you need to activate by pressing buttons, which will make them move in a circle. Now, I can't lie, interacting with these moving platforms is an absolute chore, so if you come to this room and you have any items like rebar, it is worth using it just to skip this platform. Either way, once you are on the platform, you can either go up this side or this side, which one doesn't really matter. Now, the broken fan at the end of this room will sometimes have a granola spawn, however the chance is so low that I prefer not to check the spawn, as well as the grub spawn on top of that vent. Again, the chance is far too low to even bother, so I choose to just finish this room and go to the next. Air Exchange 4, the only good room in Air Exchange, and it is also sometimes called the Grub Hub. It is easily identifiable by all this destroyed ladder at the bottom. All you need to do at the start is follow this ladder and then make your way across these little platforms to the blocked off pipe. Once you are at the pipe, it's as easy as destroying the planks blocking the way and moving on to the other section of this room. Before you do, pay attention to what's above you. There is this sinister destroyed ladder that you cannot quite reach without items. If you do have items, it is absolutely worth it to use them here just to be able to reach that ladder. Now you can actually reach it with just this single rope rebar, but I threw it too high so I can't reach it without boosting myself again. Still, if you have the items, this is more than worth visiting. Here at the top of this room, say hello to 4 guaranteed grubs and 2 guaranteed injectors. This is massive. Once you pick all this up, simply jump back down and follow the intended path. Now, since you just collected 4 grubs, it is often worth it to simply use one of them to get all the way to the end of this room without bothering with its intended mechanics. However, if you want to save the grub, just jump up and to this other pipe. Do not actually go into this pipe as this is slower. Instead, climb on top of it and then make a jump towards that light. Even if you're not boosted, you can always make this jump and land on this platform. From here, you can keep moving forward by jumping 2 platforms in front of you, and you can say hello to the blood bug, which will most definitely piss you off. From this point on, the path becomes very straightforward, except for the grub that will of course try to kill you. Now, before you jump onto the monkey bars in the middle, it might be worth checking this injector spawn. The chance is so low that I usually just don't bother. Either way, once you are at the monkey bars, it is very easy to either jump towards the barnacle or towards the handholds in the wall, and make your way to the end of the room. Air Exchange 5, a very simple room that begins like the ending of the previous room, and all you need to do is once again make your way to the blocked off pipe. Now be careful while jumping here, as this fan in the ceiling will most definitely kill you if you're not careful. Now next to this fan is a supply box, although those usually drop very underwhelming items, and if you have a blink eye, you can actually pass this fan and enter a secret area. That secret is not great, and I usually do not recommend visiting it. Once you break the planks, simply follow the pipe and then say hello to a very tricky section of this room. Problem number 1. The fans in this room alternate between pushing you up and pulling you down. Unless you want to get caught off guard, I recommend finishing this room as quickly as possible. You can either just jump forward, or upon exiting the pipe, you can actually grab onto it, jump to the broken section of the wall, and then jump towards the platform slightly off to the side, which is where you want to be, as this is the button that controls the fans that you need to disable to progress. You have to do all this while fighting the blood bug that will most definitely push you up into this upper fan and kill you. If you survive, disable the fan and just climb up while grabbing either the supports or the fan blades, straight up onto the next platform and then re-enable the fan. From here you can very easily reach the end of the room. There is yet another supply crate. It is perhaps worth breaking, but probably not, as they usually drop only very low tier items. From here, the end of the room is right there. Next, Air Exchange 6, yet another room that will kill you a lot. Here's the blood bug. Here's the fan in the ceiling. You know what's gonna happen. All you need to do at the start of this room is follow these tiny platforms to make your way to that small opening where you can get to the fan. There is rebar next to the opening which you can grab and pull yourself into. Now, as you can tell, this area is great. There's plenty of barnacles that will definitely grab you. There's the fan right next to you, which will suck you in. And there's, don't forget, this blood bag that will also push you into this fan. This is perhaps one of the worst areas in the entire air exchange. Now, if you have the blink eye, you can very easily bypass this fan and finish this room super quickly. This shaft will quickly carry you towards the next section. However, if you're quick enough, you can actually grab onto this opening and find a secret. Now, this secret, while good on paper because of the guaranteed injector and granola spawn, takes a while to get to, so usually I don't think it's worth visiting this place, unless you're playing casually. Once out of the vent, be very careful with your jump towards the rebar and pull yourself into the safe section. From here, simply follow the handholds in the wall to reach the middle section. And this is, puzzlingly, where the low gravity effect ends, even though you can see the wind particles. So from here, you need to jump normally. Low gravity will no longer help you. Next, Air Exchange 7, yet another room that will often kill you. Once you get to the top of this little section, you will have a huge, tremendous fan right in front of you, and this fan will try to suck you inside. What you need to do in this situation is either grab anything grabbable in the floor, in the ceiling, or these stairs, or use a blink eye to bypass this fan completely. Now, if you don't have a blink eye, you have to go to the side here and follow this vent. This is an interesting area. First of all, this blood bug is guaranteed. It will always mess with you. Second, this first vent is actually the one you want to go inside. However, before you do, it might be worth climbing all the way to the top of this room to check for this injector spawn on top of the lamp. Now, unfortunately, it's not guaranteed, but 80% is very high. Is this worth it? Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. It can be quite tricky to get up here with the blood bug messing with you, so oftentimes I simply just go into the vent straight away without even trying to get up there. Now, this vent will take you to the next section, which you need to pay attention to. Once you get here, do not rush and go up. Check either side of this lamp for an injector, as levels can be mirrored. This injector is super easy to grab, so there is no reason not to check its spawn. Either way, this is a very simple section. You have low gravity on your side, so you just have to go up with the handholds and enter yet another vent. Now, at the end of this room, the low gravity effect thankfully does not stop working, so you can easily jump straight into the next room. Next, Air Exchange 8, yet another room that requires you to go into this small tiny hole at the start, and then say hello to Barnacle Hell. This blood bug will immediately engage you upon sight, so it's best to deal with him straight away. Once you deal with the bug, your objective is essentially to climb this very long shaft with the low gravity effect helping you. Now, all the barnacles here will initially be very annoying, however, you can actually use them to your advantage. You can choose to get grabbed on purpose to be able to spam jumps off of their tongues, which is actually a very nice mechanic that will help you get free altitude. Either way, once you get to the end of this room, all you need to do is hang on to this rebar and shut off the fans. Once the fans are disabled, it is very easy to climb above them and check out this granola spawn. Air Exchange 9, a variation of the room that we just passed. Essentially the same deal, but now you have two ways to go, and the fan on top shuts off automatically. Beating this room is essentially the same deal as the previous one, with the exception of the fact that the fan will shut off on its own automatically. Just climb normally, and if you get grabbed by barnacles, simply use them to get even more altitude out of them. Now, the thing to be aware of is you want to be very careful when approaching the top of this room, as you do not want to get sucked in. Simply wait for the fans to turn off and then you can pass safely. Do not linger here either, as these fans can turn back on after some time. The one small consolation of these barnacle rooms is that you get granolas out of them, so that's something. Air Exchange 10. If you look up and you see that there are no rotating fans and only the moving platforms, Then you can jump on top of this light and check the granola spawn with a 73% chance. As this is yet another moving platform room which requires you to press buttons to operate the platforms, I highly recommend bringing rebar with you and simply skipping these sections. Now, once you make your way onto the first platform, you actually don't need to use any more items. From here, you can very easily jump onto the next small platform, onto the next moving platform, and make your way to the end of the room with no problem. There will be a grub spawn behind you at the top of the vent, 20%, usually not there, probably not worth checking. And Air Exchange 11, the final air exchange room. It is also the newest. I also don't like it very much. This room is essentially just a big tube that you need to glide through. However, the problem with gliding through it is the fact that these rotating platforms block your way. So unless you get very lucky with their RNG cycle, you will probably get stuck here like this, and will have to wait until they rotate out of position. Now, of course, there are also barnacles and block bugs all over this room, so while it can be completed quickly if you get lucky, if you get unlucky, well, I don't envy you. Both Air Exchange and Shattered Chambers end in Interlude Lockdown. The beginning of this room is very simple. You see the ladder, you climb the ladder, although you can actually climb the entirety of this pillar, not just the ladder. I suppose I should mention the grub spawn down there. It is very unlikely you will ever see it with a 17% spawn chance, so I never check it. Nobody really checks for it, so just don't worry about it. Now, once you climb to the upper section, your first priority is to press the button to make sure you don't drown in the mass. While you're here, you might as well jump to see if the rebar has spawned or not in that little secret section up there. The easiest way to get up here if you don't have many items on you is to use a simple rebar and throw it somewhere in the middle, slightly above the SB17, like this. You might think this is too high and you will not be able to reach it with a normal jump, however you can actually grab the computer panel, which is right under this gray section. Now, if you don't want to bother with this, you can use almost any other item like the rope rebar to get up here very easily. The slug is here 65% of the time, which is not a lot, but definitely worth checking out. Now, once you've gotten your saves and your perk, and while you're waiting on the elevator to activate, it is actually worth to break this crate to see if perhaps maybe it has something useful inside. Now, instead of jumping forward and going straight into pipeworks, it is always worth checking the secret at the top of this shaft. If you have a grub, it is absolutely viable to use a grub to simply climb up here with no problem at all. If you don't have a grub or want to save it, you can actually throw a rope rebar right below this red section, jump to the door frame, and from it to your rope rebar, which will get you to the shortcut section. And from this place, you can throw the rope rebar right next to the piton that's visible. Once it's in place, you can first jump to this broken rail, and from it to the rope. The final way to do it is to machine gun your way up with the blink eye. Once you are here, you get a guaranteed pill, a guaranteed injector, a guaranteed rope rebar, as well as a grub in this upper section of this room. Once you're done, simply exit and either go into the shortcut or into Pipeworks if you so desire. Now say hello to Pipeworks, and this region is very randomized. It consists of 3 possible subregions: drainage system, pipe organ, and waste heap. It will always begin with a drainage system room, and it will always end with a pipe organ room, but in between those two you can get anything. And since it always begins with a drainage system room, let's cover drainage system first. This is room 1, a very simple start, however you immediately come up to a blood bug. To make matters worse, if you progress just a little bit and go to an adjacent room, there is yet another blood bug here, and these two will always spawn here. Now, this guy here is unavoidable, however it is possible to bypass the second blood bug. To do so, instead of going into that adjacent room, you want to see if the piton in this little hatch here is in fact spawned. Now, as you can see, it only has a 50% chance to be here, and if it is here, it's a lifesaver, as you can skip the second blood bug. If it's not here, you can use a piton of your own, or if you are boosted by something like an injector, you can just do this jump like this without need for any items. The only thing of note in this room is this grub spawn, but it is so unlikely to actually be here that it's not even worth worrying about. Basically, all you do in this room is come up here, stand on the railing, and jump to the piton. If the piton is not there, you can use your own piton or boost yourself with something like an injector. If you have nothing, then you have to go this way. Climb the ladder, go the other way, and finish the room with this pipe in the wall. Drainage System 2, a very simple and mostly vertical room. At the start here, you can either follow the ladder, jump onto the handhold, and then catch a rebar to get into this hatch. Alternatively, if you remember to actually do it, you can instead grab this piece of the wall and jump straight towards this grate on top of the pipe. The rebar and food are always here, but the injector unfortunately only has a 15 chance to spawn. This place is easy enough to check though, so there's no reason not to. Once you get up the hatch, there is a entirely vertical section with yet another blood bug. Sometimes, very rarely, you will find an explosive rebar here, which will make your day that much better. If you don't, simply follow the handholds in the walls. Now, in this last upper section, it is very easy to get grabbed by barnacles while climbing. If you do get grabbed, do not panic, simply start spamming jumps off of their tongues like I showed you before, and this will get you up to the top of this room no problem. Drainage System 3, a room that is almost a carbon copy of the previous room. All you need to do here is simply follow the handholds and climb up. On top of this initial first section of this room, there is a possible explosive rebar spawn and a pill spawn, though the chances are so low that I usually just ignore them and keep climbing. The next section with barnacles is almost exactly the same as in the previous room, although slightly longer. The idea is the same, just climb, and if you get grabbed, just spam jumps off of their tongues. Drainage 4. When you enter this room, pay attention above you. You can remove this vent. Whenever you get into this room, I always recommend going this way instead of the main way. One of the jumps in this vent might seem impossible, but just pull yourself all the way up and you will clear it no problem. Now here is the problematic section of this room. You cannot skip this tall climb, and there are barnacles, there are blood bugs, and there are gas bags. What you want to do here is grab the edge of the vent that you came out of and jump on the platform above. At this point, these two blood bugs will start harassing the hell out of you, so you can either take the time to kill them or just ignore them and pray for the best. Now, enemies aside, the route is actually quite simple. All you need to do is go up and reach this little pipe at the end. Next, Drainage 5. This is an extremely short room that has perhaps the most annoying moving platform in this entire game. This moving spiral thing is so bad to climb on, but you have no other choice. When you get to the top of it, you will of course be harassed by a blood bug, and you can either take this path of handholds to then jump into the pipe, or jump onto this broken section of the wall to jump into the pipe from it. Drainage 6 gives you two options. You can either go left and climb the ladder, or you can go right and climb this shaft. To climb this shaft, you need to either use an item to boost yourself up, or grab a tentacle, or bap yourself up to this barnacle. Hang on, there we go. Now the problem with this shaft is, while this is technically a very fast way to the end of the room, it also has a blood bug guaranteed in the middle section of it. And this blood bug can very easily reset your progress back to the very start. So in general, I tend not to go this way. If you go left, there is a much more consistent and easy path forward. Now, before you climb the second ladder, you might want to break these crates as they conceal a secret. Now, if you are speedrunning, this secret kind of sucks, as the only relevant spawn here is a grub, and it is only a measly 35% chance to spawn. Of course, you can get something good out of the vendor, but that's RNG. If you're a casual player though, this is definitely worth visiting. Either way, you climb the second ladder, and this room will present you with the first jump that you cannot quite make by simply jumping. In these sections, and they will be quite common in the future, you can do two things. You can either use a baton to jump up, or you can actually make this jump itemless by grabbing these ledges in the middle, pulling yourself up and jumping. This second jump can be done in the exact same way. Now, going forward towards this blocked exit is actually not worth it. It's better to go back and jump onto the light. This will bring you straight to the exit. Of course, there is a blood bug here, but what can you do? And the last thing you need to do in this room is jump into the red pipe, which is right above the pipe you come out of. Now, you can either follow the handholds, or you can simply grab the pipe you came out of and jump straight to the red one. Now, Drainage 7, a very similar looking level. This one has a secret quote-unquote passage in this vent. I do not recommend visiting it, as it is very slow to make your way across it. Instead, just follow the ladder and come across this jump. Now, at this point, I hope you know what to do. You either grab a tentacle and ride it towards the barnacle, or you get grabbed on purpose and spam jumps to get where you need to go. Now, this jump is followed by yet another simple grab and pull yourself jump, which brings you to Blood Bug Annihilation Room. Now, if you can deal with the blood bugs, there's actually quite a few things in this room. First is an injector spawn in this vent right here. Though be careful not to grab on the planks, because those will throw you all over the place. Besides the injector, there are also 2 food cans, and slightly above, there is a granola hidden under this chair. Once you got everything, just jump onto the handhold in the ceiling and make your way up. This is a much easier section than the beginning. Now Drainage 8, the worst room in the entirety of the drainage system. The beginning is innocent enough, and actually almost at the very beginning, there is a secret right here. Sometimes, with a 20% chance, it will spawn with this water drained and a hole that you can drop into. That secret has a lot of very good items, but it is too slow to visit on speedruns. If you're a casual player though, definitely check it out. Now, the intended path here is terrible, to say the least. Do not go this way. Instead, come back to the initial room, jump onto the light, and from the light to the baton. This will allow you to climb this pipe. Now, when exiting the pipe, actually grab the pipe itself and pull yourself onto this ledge. In the next room adjacent to it, here's the main problem of this room, the crushers. Now, technically, going through them is not complicated at all. You just need to follow the handholds in the walls and wait for them to open so you don't get crushed. However, when you're trying to do this quickly, it can be very problematic. Now Drainage 9, a room very similar to the rooms that we've seen before, but this one gives you like 3 ways to reach the same destination. Path number 1 is to simply follow the normal geometry and make the jumps that you should be already get used to at this point. Again, the same easy jumps that you already know how to do by just pulling yourself up. And then here's the section which all 3 of these paths converge on. If you take the second route, which is through this hole, then you will get a guaranteed pill spawn as well as a chance for a grub. Now this way also forces you to go through the cavern system, which almost immediately spills you out in the regular route. If you go the third way, which is up right here, you enter the caves immediately, and this is, I think, the fastest way of getting to that same point. No matter which way you choose, you need to grab either the lamp or the rebar and pull yourself onto this ladder. From the ladder, you need to turn around and jump onto the batons, and from the batons, turn around and jump onto yet another ladder and crouch into this pipe. Now, it may seem like you need to jump forward from this pipe, but it's actually the opposite. You need to grab the edge of this pipe, go up, and go into the exit straight away. Now Drainage 10. This room you will confuse with the other drainage system room, as it begins in the exact same way, with the exact same vent above you. There is, however, a very easy way to tell them apart. If you pull on the vent, it will always get stuck in this room. I don't know why it gets stuck, but if you try the vent and it gets stuck, this means you need to go forward. In fact, you want to go forward, because there is a guaranteed pill spawn right here. As you move forward, you will come across yet another pair of crushers. And if you go back, there is a platform and there is a way to go through, but if you look above, it may seem like there is a shortcut above the crushers. I highly recommend you to not go into that shortcut, as it doesn't help at all and in fact harms you. Simply go into this passage right next to the crushers. This brings you to the final vertical room. All you need to do here is catch a ride on one barnacle, and and then catch a ride on yet another barnacle. Congratulations, you have reached the end of this room. Now onto the waste heap. I'm going to be honest, even though this region looks beautiful and provides you with a lot of freedom, I absolutely despise the gameplay, although perhaps I have a skill issue. So Waste Heap 1 is easy to identify because in this room there is only a tiny bit of space for the strider and it's mostly horizontal. You also come out of the pipe right next to it. Now, as you can tell, there are 4 blood bug spawns right in front of you. As such, you really don't want to go to that side of the room. And you don't want to climb the strider either. While you can climb this guy, and it's very cool, and you can use him to reach that rope in the middle, the blood bugs will murder you. What you should do in this room instead is go for these slightly elevated pillars straight away. From here you want to follow the ladder, jump on top of this small platform and onto the handholds. From the handholds you can jump on top of this gas bag, which will explode and send you flying in that direction. Now for some reason they don't explode right now, probably because of the mods I have installed. But jumping onto the gas bags and making them explode is very fun and very effective in this room. Once you make your way onto this upper section, all you need to do is to look up and climb a series of handholds in the wall to bring you to the platform. Once you're here, you have 2 options to choose from. The boring option would be to climb across this bar to the other side, across the handholds in the ceiling, into the exit. The much cooler option is to jump straight onto the gas bag, which will detonate and send you flying into the exit. Now once you make your way here, finishing the room is very easy as there's not much you can mess up here. Simply follow the handholds and finish this room. Waste Heap 2 is very similar, although slightly different. If upon entering this room you have no items to boost yourself with at all, I recommend checking the garbage piles here for rebar. The reason why this is important is because you want to go to the side with the ladder to progress. Once you get up onto this platform, you have 2 options. Option number 1 is turning around, and if this gas bag actually spawns, you can jump on top of it, which will launch you straight up to this ladder, and you can use it to go and progress through the room. However, if you have any items that can boost you, like that rebar that spawns down there, you actually should boost yourself across to this ladder. The reason you want to do this is because there is a very high chance of an injector spawn in this place. So if you have any boosting items at all when you enter this room, or if you can find rebar down there, this is definitely worth checking out. After you check for the injector, simply follow the ladder and then follow the series of handholds in the ceiling. However, don't go all the way to the top, because you want to check this place in the middle of the room. Not only does this place have a decent chance to give you at least 1 grub, you can also climb just slightly higher and you will find a chance for pills. From the pill spawn, you can jump straight towards these handholds in the wall and reach almost the end of the room. Now, if you have any perks boosting you, or maybe you ate a granola or used an injector, you can make a jump straight to this monkey bar. If you don't have anything boosting you, then if you jump onto these gas bags, they will launch you flying straight where you need to go. Now Waste Heap 3. This room is very confusing, especially at first. This is a very long room, so long that you will often not be able to see the end of it. Now, the confusion comes from the fact that you usually assume that you need to go up to find the exit. Well, in this room you actually need to go forward first and then up, because up there is nothing. The exit is up there. Oh, and there is always some spare rebar here. Now, whether you go left or right here doesn't matter. You might take the route which is easier, however, I recommend going the other way with the pipes. And the reason why I'm recommending to come the way of pitons is because there is an injector spawn right next to this place. 35%, very good. And it is much easier to check this spawn if you are close to it, because an injector is a very small item. Now on the other side, opposite from you, there is also a grub spawn, which is much easier to see from far away. This grub has a pretty good chance to spawn as well, so if you come up from this side with the ladder, you will have to jump to check for the grub, and you will not really be able to see whether the injector is there or not. But if you come up from this side, you will easily be able to tell whether the injector is here and whether the grub is there. Now once you do all this, just keep moving forward and grab these handholds in the wall. From here, you can turn around and keep moving up with the handholds in the wall. This brings you to the exit. Now, there is a pill spawn in this corridor, although the chance is kind of low, so I usually don't check it. The more important thing is this gas bag. If it spawns, you can jump straight on it, and it will take you all the way up right where you need to go. If it doesn't spawn, well, you gotta do some climbing. Next, the Alien Flower Room, or Waste 4. This room is interesting in the sense that no matter where you go, which direction you like the most, you will probably be able to reach that middle section up there. It is perhaps worth noting that if you go around the tree, you will find item spawns, but they have such pathetic spawn chances that they're honestly just not even worth checking out. One advice I can give you for this room is legitimately to just play this room yourself a couple of times. You'll probably find a route which you personally like the most. Now personally, I kinda hate thinking, so usually I'm boosted by OP perks, so I just go and simply climb the flower itself. However, if you're not boosted, I don't think this is such a good option. I think you should consider going one of the alternate routes that go across the walls, as those will get you up much quicker if you're not boosted by anything. Now, once you get to this middle section of this room, you want to climb all the way up. And the priority here is to catch a ride on this barnacle. If for whatever reason you don't want to take the barnacle taxi, then you will have to climb the normal boring way up. So look at which way takes you to the exit, climb there, climb some more, climb the ceiling, and you are at the exit. And now the circular flower room. Oh god, I really don't like this one. So the first thing you want to do in this room immediately is to go check if the grub spawn is there. The chance for the grub is not that high, however this grub is crucial because I absolutely love skipping this room and I absolutely hate doing it normally. Now once you've checked for the grub, and if it's not there, then you can jump on this little flower to the other flower to get to the second grub spawn. It will never be here, but you know, worth a try. If you got no grubs, congratulations, you have to do this room normally. Honestly, I don't even know the best route to do it normally, so I usually just climb up and then get to this slightly elevated flower next to the rebar spawn. Sometimes when you are on this flower, the barnacle that sometimes spawns up there will send you a helping hand, and this is a lifesaver in this room. From here, you can ride yet another barnacle again and escape this hell. Now technically, if you don't rush straight towards the end, you can find an injector spawn on a little ledge here, although that's only a 10% chance, which I usually ignore, and a pill spawn on top of the door frame here, which is a 40% chance. Honestly, I hate this room so much that I don't check any spawns, I just take the elevator and I get the hell out of here. Funnily enough, even the exit in this room is kinda scuffed, as you have to climb the flower first and then get onto the normal pipe. Now, Pipe Organ, the final subregion of Pipeworks. This area is much easier than it seems at first glance, however, I do highly recommend using stamina items in these rooms, as they involve a lot of climbing without any rest. Pipe Organ 1 is a simple room with not much to say about it. Simply look for the handholds and go for them. While this team will stop you sometimes, it's not that big of a deal. Now once you get to this middle section and see the ladder in the wall, make sure your stamina is full before you proceed, as you will have to climb all the way without stopping to rest. Organ 2 is quite a confusing room at first, but once you learn it, you can get a lot of items out of it, well, if you get lucky. It starts with this climb across an overhang, so be careful about jumping, and then you end up in an open area next to a wall. Instead of going around this wall, just climb it. And then go to the right. From here, you will be able to jump over this pipe and make your way up. Now this is almost the end of this room, and that's the exit. However, before you go to the exit, you actually might want to pay attention to the other end of the room. In this corner, you have 2 grub spawns and 2 explosive rebar spawns. The chances aren't very high, but this is worth checking out. Once you're done with the items, simply go up, wait for the steam to stop blowing, and go up. This final climb can be a little bit problematic if you have no stamina, but it shouldn't be too hard. Organ 3 is kind of a long room which consists of 2 sections. The first one is this vertical climb with some steam blowing next to you. Then you reach this entrance, which takes you to the other part of this room. This wider section can actually be done very quickly. Go to the obvious way up, and go up and don't stop going up, as if you grab the edge, the very edge of this thing, you can make a jump to the vent, which is right next to the exit. Now of course, there is this problem right here, and sometimes it will kill you. But there's nothing much you can do about it. Once you're here, simply jump to the rebar and you're done. Actually, one thing of note. Before you leave this room, there is an injector and an explosive rebar spawn on this vent next to the exit. Even though it's a very good chance for an injector, the reason why I don't usually go for it is because I usually leave this blood bug alive and I simply try to outrun it by going into the other room. If you don't kill the bug and try to grab this, yeah, you're not gonna have a good time. So if you kill the bug ahead of time, then you can definitely check the spawn. If you don't, it's better to leave ASAP. Now, when you are in the exit, you are almost done. However, if instead of going up and finishing this room, you choose to go down, then you can actually find the secret. Now, this secret is hilarious. See, it gives you so many great items with a 100% chance. But the problem is, if you are a casual player, you will never actually be able to get down here without the mass overtaking this place first. But if you are a speedrunner, you don't want to get down here either, because you need to fall so far down and then climb all the way back up. So yes, this secret is essentially a waste of time and you should never go down to get it. Now Organ 4, the big wide room. So this room is actually quite interesting. At first, you want to take this obvious ladder and go up to the first platform. Once you are on the first platform, you should actually continue with the ladder that you came from and go even higher to this kind of concealed way of handholds to the second platform. Now, once you get to the second platform with the radio, before proceeding upwards, you can actually check out the secret that exists in this room. To get to it, you need to go around, climb onto this little pipe, and then jump from it to this little block. Now, on paper, this secret is quite good, even if RNG based. There is a chance for a grub, a chance for an injector, chance for another injector, and guaranteed pills. And with a guaranteed vendor on top of all that. However, for some reason, I was never able to incorporate this secret into my runs. Maybe you can. Now, leaving this secret is as easy as getting into it. Just look for this sticking out pipe, jump towards it, grab it, and then jump to the platform that you were on before. Now, from this platform, you can either keep going the intended route, which is longer, or you can boost yourself with something to reach that baton over there, as these will usually not spawn. If you have a rebar, this is no problem. Once you're up here, there's the exit. It's right in front of you. Next, Organ 5, a simple but annoying room, mostly due to the steam. Once you get to the main section of this room, this is where you will spend most of your time. There is a lot of steam pipes in this room, and there's nothing much you can do about them. Now, while you can simply follow these big red glowing handholds, you can actually grab things like lamps, pipes, and sometimes other things that are sticking out of the walls. From the catwalk up to the handholds. And from here, you can either jump from the lamp onto the pipe and make this way up until the exit, or instead of going towards the pipe, you can just climb normally. Get to the handholds, jump to the other side, follow the handholds, switch sides again, follow the handholds again, and get to the end. The exit of this room is easy as well, as just like with all of them, you can grab onto this rim. Organ 6, a room very similar to the previous one. Same basic concept. You are climbing in this very much vertical room with steam everywhere trying to knock you off of your balance. The exit of this room is also almost exactly the same as the previous one. Organ 7. This is quite a challenging room and it will mess with you, both with the steam and in general just with your sense of direction. If you get this room, I recommend taking a stamina item straight away, like pills or granola. Organ 8, a room that seems very much like the previous one, with very tight spaces and steam knocking you out of balance. However, this one is different in that it actually changes things up a little with the bowls device. And here it is. Now, you might think that the intended way to pass the bowls device is to follow this series of handholds. And that is possible, although oftentimes the steam will blow you away from it. So when you come here and you see this opening, instead of going into the open area, just climb the pipes themselves. Once you are on top of the bowls device, only grab onto handholds. You cannot grab onto anything else while here. And Organ 9, the latest addition to the pipe organ region. This one is cool. So as you can see, this one has the altar. If you know what the altar does, then well, more power to you. Either way, when you get into this room, the first thing you want to do is jump onto this monolith, onto the platform, onto the pipe, onto the light fixture, onto the next pipe, and into this very dark corner. Now, even though the mod only shows the injector spawn here, there's actually a possible grub spawn right here next to the injector and a possible explosive rebar on the left. This little corner is always worth checking. Once you pick up the items, jump back onto the pipe, in between these two pipes, onto the smaller ones, onto the platform, onto the rebar. Be careful not to get blown away, and you're free to leave this room. Once you finally get out of Pipeworks, get ready to face the final challenge of the first half of the game, Interlude Ascent. There are two ways to complete Ascent, and let's start with the normal one. To complete it the normal way, you need to come in here with at least 3 rebar in your inventory and pick up these 2, bringing your total to 5 rebars. If you don't have 5, you might still get lucky and be able to purchase one more from this vendor, which is guaranteed to spawn here. Either way, you get into the elevator and off you go. Once the elevator stops for the first time, what you need to do here is go to these 3 buttons, press them, and then go back to the elevator in time. Now, obviously nobody has time for that, and this is what the rebars are for. To hit them with rebars, all you need to do is to aim slightly above the buttons, as rebars have a slight drop to them. Done. Once you hit all 3, all you need to do is jump back in and press the button again. When the elevator stops for the second time, what you need to do is climb across the wall, press the button inside that room, and then make your way back up here and press the button again. Now, obviously nobody has time for that. What you can do instead is climb on top of the elevator and rebar boost yourself across this gap. After you press the button, it's as easy as doing this one more time. Like that. After that, you press the button and ride all the way up. Now, this is the normal way, and it is somewhat slow. To skip the elevator, ideally you need 2 grubs and 1 pill bottle. Check this vendor, and then go here to this door frame, which has a guaranteed injector on top of it. Now, the way I like to do this is to take pills immediately, pick up this injector, prepare the grub, and come to this big pipe. Then it's only a matter of how fast you can climb. Now, once you are up here at this final platform, getting to the hatch and into it is actually quite easy. If you are still under the effects of the injector, or if you have any good perks that boost your jump height, you can simply rebar boost yourself once and fly all the way to this hatch and grab it just like that. Now, even if you don't have anything at all, even a simple rope rebar will suffice. Place the rope and do a simple rebar boost towards it. Once at the hedge, just keep your cool. If you have a rebar thrown into it, it's better to grab the tip of the rebar as it will allow you to pull yourself inside easier. Just like that, you're in. Now once inside, you can actually climb all the way up with just a single grub, although I prefer to do it from this lamp, slightly higher. And there you go, elevator skip. If you don't have a grub, you can use the good old rebar, although you need to climb all the way to the top first, which is admittedly not that hard. Now if you have a rope rebar, you can simply throw it anywhere close to the hatch and then jump to it, from which you will be able to easily reach the hatch and pull yourself up. If you don't have a rope rebar, well, this gets a bit more complicated, as you need to nail a perfect rebar boost towards the hatch. Like this. Now there is a way to do this entire upper section itemless, but I'm not even gonna get into this. It's just not worth it. If you took the elevator, you will be able to leave at that bridge. If you didn't and you skipped the elevator, then go this way on the left, and you will be able to see that ladder in the distance. Now, a few things about this open area right after the elevator and before the maintenance shaft. If you are a casual player, it might make sense to go back to this huge crane and climb to the very top of it. That secret up there guarantees a spawn of a lot of very good items, but it takes so long to get there that it is just not viable in any kind of competitive run. If you are playing casually though, this is worth it, and I don't want to spoil what's there for you. Now again, if you are a casual player, before you enter these gates, it might make sense to go left here and pick up these bricks. The purpose will come clear soon enough. There's nothing really special about this area before the shaft. You save here, get your perk, check out the 2 vendors, you get a brick here, and there is a guaranteed food spawn down here. Now, if you are short on roaches and you need just a few to buy something or buy a perk, the roaches in this room spawn above at this catwalk. Before you leave, you obviously grab the flashlight, the flare gun, break the box, and collect all the ammo that drops out of it. Now here's a general tip about maintenance shaft. The 2 most important items you can bring here are the pills and the granola bar. The reason is simple. Stamina is very, very important here. There will be very few places where you can stop and rest. You essentially just climb all the way without stopping, so having unlimited stamina is very valuable here. Now regarding the shaft itself. If you have pills or granola, use them straight away. If you have a spare grub, especially with an injector, it is worth using it right here to skip the initial section of the shaft, because it is probably the most annoying one. Now, whenever you are climbing and you come across these paths into alternate shafts, unless you're a casual player just exploring, these are not actually worth going into. Stick onto the main shaft. One of the things that will make your life so much easier in this location is if you get used to climbing not just on handholds, but also to everything that's sticking out. For example, these bars in between the rails, which also extend outside of the rails. These tiny things you can actually grab onto. These gray and yellow metal belts can also be grabbed onto. And obviously any bricks sticking out or lamps in the walls are also fair game. Now, the thing you need to understand about Teeth is even though he is very scary and menacing, he is also very slow. If you're climbing with any sort of speed, he will never be able to catch up to you. Also, if you cannot outspeed him, then you will have to actually kill him. Killing him is as easy as hitting him with essentially anything that can be thrown or shot. So flare gunshots, bricks, and rebar. They will all one-shot this guy. One hit is enough to stun him, and after the stun animation, he will actually retreat and go back. Another thing to understand is that he's only doing damage to you while actually attacking. The black hands on your screen do not mean anything. Now, while technically it is best to use rebar or bricks to deal with this guy to save flare gun ammo, you can use the flare gun as well if you are in panic or in a hurry. When you use flares, it does not need to be a direct hit on Thief to make him go away. As long as the flare is next to him, that's enough to make him go away. If you come across this area with a slightly opened shutter door, this is actually worth going inside on your first playthrough, as this area is not only safe from Thief, but also has quite a lot of surprises inside. If you climb the shaft and hear the sounds of the radio, go towards it. This means there is a flare crate next to it, which is very nice, and additional food. If you come across this section with vents in it, this might be worth going into if you are a new player, as these vents are completely Thief-proof. However, if you are experienced and have boosts from injectors active, then it's best not to go in these. Something worth mentioning is that Thief only spawns from these very obvious openings in the wall. However, if he's not here, or if he's already spawned and running somewhere behind you, they are worth going towards, as they can be used to climb on them, on these bricks that are sticking out. You will often encounter these two containers blocking your passage, usually in the middle of the shaft. This is quite an easy thing to bypass, although it can troll you if you're using grubs. This will also have a side shaft, but as I've said before, these are not worth visiting unless you're playing casually and simply exploring. Now here's an interesting section of the shaft. It begins with this hole in the wall, which can be worth visiting if you are playing casually or, well, at least not competitively, as you get free food and a granola bar here. After you get out of this, by climbing up, you actually, instead of going straight up, might want to check out the section right below the exit. In this big hole, there is a guaranteed pill spawn. However, I actually didn't know this, I thought it was a random spawn, but turns out it is sometimes obscured by this blood decal. And of course, sometimes you will get a flare crate, and once every 10,000 years, a grub. Pills are the best item in this particular area, so visiting this opening is a no-brainer. The shaft will always end like this, with this small vent that is lit up by a red light. Once you are at the end, it is very easy to get to the shaft, as it is surrounded by handholds from all sides. At the end of the vent, all you need to do is press the two buttons, drop the elevator on Thief's head, and keep moving. Now, I apologize for not covering this place in more detail, but the shaft is genuinely a place where getting good at it is simply going through it over and over again while building muscle memory on what you can grab and what you cannot. Now, right after the shaft, you get a vendor and say hello to Haunted Pier. Haunted Pier 1, despite its very large size, is a fairly simple location. This is how you identify Pier 1 actually. If you come out into a huge open area with a crane right above you, this means you are in Pier 1. Now, if your inventory is already full of OP items and you don't need anything else, simply turn right, pick up this brick, throw down the ladder, and keep going up. However, if you do need items, then before going up this way, you need to check out a few places. First is this vendor that will always be here. Now, from the vendor, if you go towards the big radio tower, you can see this pile of containers. On the other side of it, there's a guaranteed injector spawn. And above it is a guaranteed floppy disk spawn. There is a little something on top of that tower too, but I'm not gonna spoil it. Once you got your items, you need to get to the top of this building. Now, if you went to the container pile for the injector, you could start with this building. Pay attention to these windows in all Pier variations. They are grabbable, but you can only grab the bottom of them. So using them, you can get to the top of this thing, to the top of the container, and jump straight towards the roof of the opposite building. If you decided to check out the vendor, you can hop on the trash can and make your way up to the building. Or if you are too lazy to climb any of these buildings, then just come back to this ladder and climb it instead. From the roof, you can jump to the window, to the light fixture, and you're done. So this roof is important because here is a guaranteed pill spawn. Once you grab the pills, the way forward is through these two pipes. Climbing them is very simple, as they have plenty of handholds and things to grab in each one of them. Just alternate between two of them and you will get to the top in no time. From here, you need to make a jump towards these handholds in the wall. Now, these yellow handholds are actually temporary. They will fall off after a few seconds, although the time they do give you is quite enough. Once you're up here, you might think you need a brick to bring down this ladder. You actually don't need to. You can grab onto this, and then jump towards the ladder. From the top of this ladder, you have two ways to go. Either the right way with temporary handholds, or the left way with permanent handholds and having to jump onto this crate. The way with the suspended container is actually more fun, so I prefer to do that. You can catch the bottom of this container, so don't worry, you will always make it. Now it seems like going from the container to the top is impossible, but you can climb the cable itself. If you don't want to have fun with the container, you can always just go right. Now, if you have a grub and an injector, the fastest way to complete this location is to climb the ladder, get to the top of this roof, grab the guaranteed pills, and then simply inject yourself with the grub and go all the way up. You can also play with the crane itself. It is actually controllable from its control room. You can bring it to whatever position you so desire and jump from the top of it to one of these houses up there. Now Pier 2. This one can be very easily identified by the fact that you get thrown out into a street, and this entire map is very narrow and mostly vertical. The first thing you should do here is go left immediately, jump over this wall, and grab the guaranteed injector on this vent. Below it is also a flare crate if you are running low on flares. Now, the best normal way up without grubs is actually from this side. Now, once you get to these two pipes, pay attention. You don't need to climb all the way up. Just get to this final brick in the first pipe, and from it, you can jump and grab the middle of this ledge. Once you are here, the normal way involves going all the way around to the ladder that you need to knock down. Do not do that, however. As soon as you get to this platform, simply climb on this, and then flare jump up, which will allow you to get to the second platform. Once you're here, it's very easy to make your way up without using any items. And you're done. Now, the other normal way to doing this location on the left side is actually super nerve-wracking. You need to climb this building and then climb across these handholds on an overhang in a single sequence. This is something worth experiencing once in your White Knuckle career, but never again. Now, skipping this location with a grub is actually kind of complicated, so once you pick up the injector, if you come back here, you see there is this thing in the middle that blocks your path. So going straight up this way is not recommended. What you can do is pick up the injector and come to this side, the injector side, and climb around it. Now Pier 3, very recognizable because the entrance to it looks nothing like the other two. Now, if you know, you know. Rest in peace, Metal Tower. Now, what you want to do here is climb to the very top of this destroyed building. If you are boosted by anything at all, any perks, any items, then I just recommend climbing it normally, either via these handholds or just by grabbing the edges of the floors, pulling yourself up and jumping up. I say boosted because when you are not boosted by anything, it can be very awkward to grab the edges of these floors, but of course it's still doable. Now, before you get to the top floor, check this one, as there's always a guaranteed vendor here. On the top floor, there is yet another point of interest. Behind this pile of rubble is an injector spawn. Once you are on this final floor, both the normal path to the left and the normal path to the right are, like, not very good at all. This pier really wants you to skip it. But if you have nothing on you, then you have to do it normally. Now, I recommend not going to the crane. You can go there, play with the crane, rotate it, jump from it. It takes so long that it's just not worth it at all. The path on the left is the one that you actually want to go towards. Now this climb might look scary, but trust me, it's not too bad. Now, once you get to this first little platform, the game wants you to go to the left, around, and then up again. You can save a lot of time by simply flare jumping from this metal platform to that handhold. Now Pier 4, the coolest pier. Now this one, after the update, has simply so many routes you can take that I physically cannot cover them all. But whichever way you choose to go, always check the dumpster next to the entrance, as it has a granola bar. Now I will demonstrate a run on the inside and a run on the outside, but honestly there are so many routes that you can do whatever you want in this location. Always check for this place. There will always be an injector here. Once you get to the roof of this thing, always go towards the leftmost pillar, as the leftmost pillar gives you the easiest access to Delta Labs. Now, one of the routes on the outside requires you picking up the spear and using it later. From this place, you can grab an edge and transition to climbing these temporary handholds. From here, follow the scaffolding and climb the temporary handholds once more. From this container-looking platform, go forward towards the light. From the light to this metal rail, and from the rail to this weird contraption. Now, if you so desire, from this contraption you can walk all the way down, go to the injector spawn, get the injector, and then go back. But if you just want to do it as quickly as possible, take out your rebar that you picked up at the very bottom, and then boost yourself towards this thing. Once you get here, you essentially get a direct way all the way up to Delta Labs. Jump towards this building, which will have a flare crate, get on top of it, and here, an easy way up straight to Delta Labs. But of course, just like the other piers, this one is best done with the Holy Trinity. And now the Delta Labs themselves, a very unique and unusual region. First things first, once you enter the lobby, go all the way up here and check for food or safes if you need those. Your next point of interest is at the opposite end of the lobby, the Tier 2 vendor. If you're short on roaches, you can go to the left toilet and jump into this stall. There's a breeder here. Making your way back, there is a double grub spawn, although with a very low chance in this broken vent. There are no save or perk computers here, so all you can do is go forward via this opening in the ceiling, which will take you to this vent. Delta 1 is a room that begins with this vent, where you will be instantly harassed by the hands, and it can be very easily identifiable by this section, where there's an easy access to the vent right here, or a very hard to reach vent in the top. This room is basically about choosing to go either a terrible and awful route, which is through this vent, which is easily accessible, or going through an easy and excellent route, which is in the ceiling, but cannot be accessed if you are completely unboosted and have no items. Well, technically you can reach it without any items and unboosted. While you can do this, this is very unreliable. Basically, as long as you have any perks that boost your jump, or you have any items, even something as basic as a baton, you will be able to get up there. Now, if you do get up here, the path forward is very simple. So, this vent. The beginning of it is very simple, as you just need to follow the handholds. However, this jump is pretty much undoable if you are completely unboosted. Even if you use this slope right here to jump off of it, you still will not be able to reach the next baton. What you need to do here is, since you will definitely have the flare gun with you at this point, to flare gun off of this position. From here, simply go all the way up, or if you have a blink eye, visit this broken shaft, which will also appear in a couple of other rooms. There's something very interesting in there, though I don't want to spoil it. Once you are done, this vent, which goes up, will take you to the exit to this room. Now, what if, on accident or on purpose, you did not go the correct way and did not jump into that vent? Well, prepare for awesome times. From the entrance to this vent, you can go immediately to the right and jump into this safe room, which you can climb, find a free baton here, which is not very useful, and pull yourself up into the fun section. This section is so fun, because here you need to simply wait for turrets to turn off before you can pass this area. Otherwise, if you climb while they're turned on, well, you know what's gonna happen. You need to then repeat this process in the next room as well. So all you can do is wait for the lights to go off, and then you can climb. Once you get past the turrets, it brings you to the same vent as you would have arrived to if you took the correct way, and from here you simply need to go up into the next room. Now this vent, with a baton and an immediate turn, is the beginning of Delta 2. If you have no perks and no items, pick up this baton, as you will not be able to make this jump otherwise. Eventually, you will come out in this room. The television room is both easy and hard at the same time. The idea here is that you want to climb this central thing that also rotates. However, you will be at the same time shot at by turrets, which will be hiding in the walls. To start this room, once you come out of the vent, immediately go up and onto the central pillar. The idea here is to spot the turrets and put the central rotating thing in between you and the turrets, so you don't get shot at. Now, I think this laser here is actually a hard mode feature. I'm not sure why it's here, but you know. Now, at the end of it, all you have to do is come to these turrets, which are oblivious to you, turn them off with this computer, and climb into the ceiling. Next, Delta 3. This is a room that you will absolutely hate and despise when you are a new player, but will learn to love and appreciate once you get better at the game. The main problem of this room is that it's super easy to get lost in it. However, if you repeat after me, you will beat it no problem. First, in this initial section, you always go up. Ignore this vent, go up. In this upper section, you will always get an injector, a save, and food. Once you grab those, look for the ladder. Go up the ladder. Once at the top of the ladder, do not go forward. Turn around and go into the vent opposite of the ladder. Here, all you need to do is climb up into this well-lit room. You will find some food, an auto-baton, and more flare shots here. Then keep going up. In this vent, you want to go in the direction that has an arrow pointing down. It's quite easy to tell as well. This way has no arrow. This way is closer and has an arrow. Drop down there. There's yet another arrow, which is easy to follow. Now, in this tall vent, you need to use an item to get up there, but thankfully you just got extra flare gun shots, so might as well. This will get you almost to the end of the main room. From the vents, simply jump onto the small vent that is protruding from the wall, from it to the big vent, to the rebar, and leave the area. Next is Delta 4, the low gravity room, which can be immediately identified by this purple glow. This room caused countless deaths, but don't worry, it's not that complicated. Now, to begin with, if you get as unlucky as I did right here and all 4 turrets spawn, then it makes sense to go up to their platforms and kill a few of them. If you come up from behind, they will not be able to shoot you. Now, if you climb on this platform, which is closer to this vent in the wall, you can actually ignore the other 2 as they are no threat to you. From this platform, you can make a jump straight onto this vent, and it is very important as it has a guaranteed injector on top of it. Now, I would recommend using this injector straight away and then dropping onto this desk in front of you. From it, go up, catch the handhold, and keep going up. From this handhold, turn around and jump to the black vent in the wall. Jump once more, and you are at the end of the room. Now Delta 5, the radio room, a very challenging room no matter if you are new or already experienced. Once you get to this section, simply ignore the vent which has an X on it and go into the other one, which will also usually have extra flare gun ammo. From this vent, you have a choice. You can either turn right and drop into the radio room itself, which is not recommended as it is full of hands and turrets, which will insta-kill you oftentimes. What you should do is go left. There is a vertical shaft that goes all the way to the end of the room, and it has plenty of handholds to do it itemless. Now, the only problem when going this way is that you might get grabbed by a hand that usually chills around here. If you do, you might want to keep something like a blink eye in your inventory. If you can clear this vent without getting grabbed and destroyed, then the rest is very easy. Now Delta 6, a room with the Bolts device version 2.0. This room, while very scary at first, is actually extremely simple. Now this room can have up to 3 turrets. Currently they are all spawned because I'm using the test mode. However, usually you will at most see 1 or 2. To start this room, you jump onto the vent that is the lowest to the ground. In this vent, there is a very good chance for an injector spawn. Now, from this injector spawn, you want to check if that turret is there or not. If that turret hasn't spawned, then you can simply keep going up from here, as that turret will not really do anything to you. However, if that turret is here, that means you cannot simply keep climbing. You need to make a slight detour to destroy it or bypass it. In such case, jump onto the other side and to this little spot where the pills sometimes appear. Now, since this turret blocks you from essentially every viable way to get up, you have no choice but to destroy it if it's here. You can either throw a rebar at it from here, or go into melee. And from this spot, going forward is easy. So if you are at the injector spawn and the turret is not there, then you can simply keep climbing up. Once you are at the top of the vents, you might think that the intended way to progress is to catch these rebars and climb the Bolts device. Even though that's intended, that's actually not the best way to do it. What you should do is first climb onto the tallest vent, and from it, jump up to go into this open area. Once you are here, instead of climbing the Bolts device itself, you can actually climb these concrete supports, which is much easier. And from the support, you can jump straight into the exit from this room. The exit has this black path with an X marked on the wall. Now Delta 7, a far worse and much more cruel version of the previous room. Here you will have turrets, you will have the vent things trying to kidnap you, and no hope at all. All you get at the start of this room is hidden behind this, is 1 can of food and 2 flares. The only tip I can give you is that if you have items, now is the time to use them, especially grubs. Next, Delta 8, a room that begins with this droppable ladder, which you can still reach with a simple jump. It will take you to this very small computer area. This room is essentially a time challenge. You press this room, it opens the path forward. You then need to press another button, which will open another path forward, which will lead to the third button that will let you leave this room. The timed nature of this challenge comes from the fact that there will be a rising laser that will kill you if you linger for too long. However, this room is still very easy to complete. Once you get to the second button, go to the other side of the room and check the injector spawn. Just like that, a very simple room. Delta Labs always end in this tall shaft that starts getting a little bit spooky. Simply climb in the ceiling and you will get to the artifact machine. Now, surprisingly, a lot of people actually miss the artifacts when getting to this room. At first, your attention gets drawn to this crystal, and then when you realize you can't really do anything with it, people simply leave and go forward. But no, don't leave, turn around. There's your artifacts. Making your way from the machine, you will see a guaranteed vendor, and then you come to Interlude Evacuation. This place has a lot. First of all, you can buy a save and finally save here. Although this computer is only for saving, you will not get an extra perk from it. If you need food for your perks, there will always be 2 food cans on this container. And if you want some trash items, you can find a supply box hidden by the ceiling. If you somehow lost your flare gun, one will be provided to you right here. But even if you already have it, there will always be this flare box right here. Now, making your way into the tram area, this tram is how you leave this place. Go inside and click the button. But first, check out this big vendor. If you need just a few more roaches to afford something, check out this trash container next to it. Now, if this is your first time doing Abyss, I recommend actually riding the tram. If it's not, then simply push the button and leave it. It's much better to go on foot. Going on foot gives you the benefit of allowing you to simply walk across those tracks before they get broken. Now, if you did ride the tram, then you will have to make your way across these handholds in the wall. While you make your way across, remember that these simple handholds in the wall at the beginning of Abyss, especially these 3, have taken so many lives that you have no idea. From here, you don't have to follow these rebars, you can simply jump onto the tracks. From here, simply move forward. Now, transit scaffolds is a very simple area, and you need to do only one thing and one thing only. Stay on the upper sections. Now, technically, dropping down into the lower sections is not a death sentence. You can definitely survive and make your way across. However, it is infinitely easier to do this area while staying on the upper sections. So how do you deal with the face? Well, it's actually quite simple. Face has 2 modes. In passive mode, it will simply start circling around you, trying to block your passage, trying to be a nuisance. In active mode, it will fly straight towards you while chomping and try to kill you. When the face is in its passive mode, you can't do anything to it. But when it's hunting you actively and trying to kill you, you can actually knock it out of the hunting mode back into its passive state. Here are a few examples on how to do it. A double spear throw. 2 flare gun shots. A single explosive rebar. These are the best ways to fight the face. However, you don't really want to do that. The thing you need to understand is that the face is extremely slow. Once you learn to move forward consistently without stopping, the face will never be able to catch up to you. Now I'm switching back to test mode, and unfortunately it has a bit of a mass problem, but don't worry about it. This section of transit is extremely simple. You have your artifact, or items, or the flare gun. Use whatever items you need to stay on the upper levels. Whenever you see these cables, you can use them to traverse. If you come across this circular structure, this is very good news. This means that the altar is very close. Now, the altars are important because, first of all, they protect you from the face, and second of all, you usually want to rush to them to sacrifice your artifact, which I will not be doing here. If you come across this section that begins with extremely long cables going all the way to the next section, this is also good news, as that means there is an altar right there. If you want to make a sacrifice, you can definitely jump down there. If you don't care, you can just keep climbing this rope and get to the other side. Now, transit scaffolds always end in this exact same transition to Dead Man's Handle. I told you to stay on the upper section of the scaffolds, not only because it's faster, but because it's very critical to be up here to transition into Dead Man's Handle well and save a lot of time. See, if you go through the lower sections, you will have to essentially go along these lines and then climb from the very bottom to the top of it. However, from this upper section, you can make a jump on this tiny piece of metal, and from here you need to make a mental memo. You always jump to the side which has the tram. Dead Man's Handle can spawn mirrored, so this tram will not always be on the same side. Alternatively, you can simply remember which side the tram is on and jump on this middle section, this little spire. Now, when it comes to actually doing it, this jump can be made with so many different items in so many different ways. I will leave experimentation up to you, but remember, the most important things here are double jumps, using an injector right here, and your trusty flare gun. Now, me personally, I like using the blink eye. Just like that. Now, once you are either on the tram or on this antenna, you need to make your way to this building on the top, which will be on the same side as this tram. It is much easier if you jump to the antenna itself and not the tram. Now, while it is better to jump on the antenna, the tram itself does have some useful items inside, like this granola bar, which is guaranteed. If you jump on the antenna, there is a very easy and obvious path of handholds you should take that will lead you towards that building. And once you're next to the house, you can hold on to the metal bits while jumping towards it. So what the mod is showing here is actually incorrect. Instead of one guaranteed injector, there will be 2 spawns for injectors, each with like an 85% spawn chance. And these 2 injectors is the main reason why you want to jump on this side specifically and then climb this building. These 2 injectors will make the following area so much easier. Now, if you jumped on the tram, you can either follow these hanging cables to reach the building, or you can just ignore it straight away, although I do not recommend it, as there is a different place you can get injectors from. From the tram, simply follow this rail line that goes around Dead Man's Handle. Now, from this second platform, if you look inward, you can actually see just a little bit of biological growth in that opening. This is where you find the other 2 injectors. Now, I will say that this secret is only worth visiting on casual playthroughs, as it loses you too much time to be viable. Now, if you choose to go this outer way around Dead Man's Handle, you don't even actually need to engage with it at all. Just make your way around, make your jumps, and you will be able to get to the end no problem. Now, if you chose to climb up here to get the injectors, it's even easier. All you need to do is follow the roof in the same direction. And from this highest point, if you choose to inject yourself right here, you can actually simply jump and glide all the way there. If you don't, you need to make a simple jump down and engage with the Hanging Gardens mechanics. Mechanic number 1 is the jump pads. If you played Half-Life, you know exactly what this is. If you didn't, well, walk over them, and they will send you flying. Hanging gardens can also begin like this. No jump pad, but these 3 weird blood bugs. This is the developers trying to tell you that these bugs are not hostile. In fact, you need to use them to make your way forward. Now, the beginning of this garden level is quite simple. All you need to do is follow this path and jump, while also ideally not getting caught by barnacles. Now, once you are here, you can actually make the jump to the top of that tower if you are either boosted by many injectors, or have very good perks, or double jumps, or a combination of those. Otherwise, you have to jump down to that platform in the middle. Now, you will actually not make this jump like this if you have no perks and don't use any items. So you need to either boost yourself to reach it, or go down and use this jump pad. Once on this platform, you can jump down to the bottom of this tower and make your way either right or left via the cables. However, I highly suggest you try and make this jump to the ladder, as the top of this tower is quite important. Once by the flower, you can follow this path of metal handholds to reach all the way to the top. Now, this is why this tower is so important. Not only is there an explosive rebar, but also an injector. Now, the mod is wrong here. I know for a fact that this syringe might not spawn, however, most of the time it will be here. Now, once you get here, if you use this injector and you already used a couple of other injectors, or you have very good perks, you can simply jump forward and glide like an airplane. If you have nothing, then you need to jump to this platform next to this tower. The top of this platform has this egg, which will usually spawn a blood bug. Whether it does or doesn't is irrelevant, as you need to go down to this jumping platform and launch yourself to the middle section, which has yet another jump pad that will get you to this tower. Now, believe it or not, there is actually yet another reason to want to stay on these upper sections in this level. That reason usually lives on the lower sections and attaches itself to towers like this one. If you plan on using worker blood bugs to simply traverse the entire garden, well, these guys have their own ideas about it. Now, from this platform, you just need the slightest of boosts to reach this ladder, which can be achieved by almost anything. Once you are here, you really want to reach that platform with the broken tram. Now, you can do this in a few ways. You can either climb the tower you're standing on right now and jump to the very top of it, and from it, try to boost yourself with the items you have straight to that tram. Now, if you do not possess such power, then you have to navigate these floating monsters. They are quite helpful, as you can grab onto their ropes and use them to swing yourself across. Once you get under the broken tram, you really want to boost yourself up somehow to reach that chain. Technically, of course, you can keep going in the lower sections, but there are sniper barnacles here. Inside of this tram are a lot of item boxes, though these are low tier and not worth opening. Now, from the top of this tram, you can quite easily reach almost the end of this section, especially if you have good items or perks. Again, whenever you get to lower sections of platforms, I highly recommend going up. Now, this majestic area can actually be traversed in multiple ways. First, you can ride these shrimps. Second, you can ride the floating monsters and jump from rope to rope. Third, you can actually climb this tower that you're at And even though it takes a lot of time, this is probably the easiest way to do it. Now, whenever you use these bugs for transport, pay attention, as they periodically deal stamina damage to your hands. Either way, this is the final stretch. Now the shortcut regions that you can visit in your campaign runs. The first shortcut is actually right here at the very start of the game. All you need to do is open this vent and go inside. The computer requires a code, and once you enter it, you can visit the shortcut itself. The code to the first shortcut is in this section, right before you enter the service shaft with teeth. If you check this perk computer, you will find the code on it. Now, here's the thing about this region. It is not viable to visit this place if you are trying to play for score or trying to finish the campaign. While this shortcut can be faster than going through silos, it is a lot harder and has nowhere near the same amount of item spawns. So, because this place is not viable, I don't want to spoil it for you. It would be a lot more interesting if you play this place for yourself. Now, the second shortcut is actually viable. It is located in this elevator shaft in Interlude Lockdown. To open it for the first time, you need to enter the code at the computer right here. But where do you get the code? Well, the code is located all the way in Delta Lobby Labs. Check out the toilet on the right and pay attention to this vent in the ceiling. Open it and go inside. Now, here's the thing about Expulsion Chute, the second shortcut. This place is actually better than going Pipeworks. However, it is only better if you come prepared with a lot of items. At least 2 grubs, 1 pill, and 1 injector. That is the minimum amount of items you require to make this shortcut work. While you are inside any of the shortcuts, the in-game time moves at twice the speed, so climbing it normally is simply not an option. However, if you do have the items, this place is amazing, at least as long as you can avoid the crushers. When you get to this upper part, before you can proceed by going inside of this pipe in the center, you need to first press this button to open the door to it. Now, if at this point you still have grubs remaining, it is absolutely viable to use them right here to fly to the end of this shortcut. If you don't, this is still doable, albeit slower. Just get inside via these handholds and get to the first platform above you. Now, here's the problem. You need to get to this big incinerator. The problem is, you cannot simply jump there. But there is a single piton in the wall right here, and one provided to you. So if you have no other items to boost you up there, you can use this piton. Once you get on top of it, all you need to do really is to just avoid the fire as it deals damage and forces you to let go of the handholds. From these vertical bars, it is a very simple jump to the middle and to the exit. Now keep in mind, if you do take this shortcut, at the end of Interlude Ascent, you get 2 vendors and a full perk machine, while this perk machine only offers 2 perks instead of 3. However, the loss of 1 perk and 1 vending machine is usually well worth it. And that's basically the entire campaign. If you want even more help, come visit my Discord server. I will be more than happy to answer any additional questions you might have. If you think I missed something important or made a mistake, please do let people know in the comments. Otherwise, I hope this guide has been helpful and I shall see you in the next video.